welcome to In a Pickle Knitting. Today is day 11 of Vlogmas. Though I am kind of a fail at this, I've missed a few days, missed yesterday again. So I really am going to catch everything up. So today I have 3 books for you. And the first one I want to talk about is Bear Stays Up for Christmas. It's by Karma Wilson, illustrated by Jane Chapman. And this is a story of hibernating bear, and his friends want him to be up for Christmas. And so they go to wake up a sleeping bear. He does stay up, and that refrain is repeated throughout the book. Repetitious text is important as a pre-reading skill. It helps to develop that prediction and that sense of knowing what's coming next, predicting what's coming next in your story. It's also told in verse, which is another important pre-reading skill for young children. When they hear this in text, it helps them then to develop that sense of being able to read words that they already know. If you know bake, then you can read take and lake and make, etc. So that rhyming ability helps a lot with spelling and with reading, and so you do hear it a lot in children's literature. This particular one has the repetition, so the bear stays up, or a variation of that throughout. They do get him to wake up, and at the end he goes back to sleep, and all of his friends were happy that he finally got to have a Christmas. So Bear Stays Up, a really cute story. It's a fairly popular one with elementary school children. I'd say of interest probably up to age 7. And at that age, they may, depending on reading skill, be able to read a great deal of it themselves, especially after having heard it a couple of times. The next one I want to share is not probably in the genre of wonderful literature, but it also falls into a favorites category for many, many children are very enamored with or enjoy listening to Berenstain Bears stories. And there's a number of videos that go along with Berenstain Bears stories. So this one is the Berenstain Bears Christmas Tree by Stan and Jan Berenstain. And of course it has Mama, Papa, Baby, and Brother and Sister Bear in the story. Baby Bear is not in this particular story. It's a pre-Baby Bear. And this is a story of the bears not having their Christmas tree, and it is Christmas Eve. And once again, Papa is the one who's going to cause all the troubles. He doesn't want a tree from Grizzly Gus, the neighborhood seller of trees where Mama Bear sends him. No, they're going to go up and get their own tree. And they encounter a number of problems in that pursuit. Primarily that other creatures are living in the trees that they want to cut down. So by the time they get back home, there are no more Christmas trees. But when they get to their tree where they live, all of the creatures have come and decorated the house to be a Christmas tree. So it's a cute story, and there is a video. I know I have a VHS video of this story, and I think you can probably find it on YouTube. Maybe the quality's not quite there, probably not supposed to be there, but might be available other ways. Berenstain Bears Christmas Tree, I'd suggest the book first and then the video. And my last story is by another favorite children's author of mine, Tommy DePaola. And he has written a number of different Christmas stories. In fact, I have 2 more in the stack that I may or may not use. This first one, though, is I like stories that are legends or pourquoi tale that tell, you know, how or why something happened. Particularly among folk literature, I like stories that have been passed down. And this is a such story. You'll often know that by when it says it's being retold. That typically means, although it might not say it and it is retold, but if it says retold, you're usually talking about a story that has been passed down for many, many years, and we don't know who started the particular story. It's finally put into words. It was most likely in the past from the oral tradition. But this is The Legend of the Poinsettia, and it is written and illustrated by Tommy DePaola, which if you're familiar with his work, you will most likely recognize that particular illustration style. He has several books where you might not know which book it is depending on the way the characters look. They look very similar. This story explains how the tradition in, I believe they're in Mexico, I'm pretty sure they're in Mexico, and the tradition is there's a parade through town at most saints' feasts, and at the end of the one at Christmas or Navidad, everyone gives presents to the baby Jesus. And this particular year, the father from their church comes and asks the family if they will weave a new blanket for the baby Jesus in their performance because the old one is falling apart. And they do start to, the young girl and her mother start to make this, and the mother becomes ill and is unable to finish it. And so the girl wants to finish it anyway, and she tries and makes a mess of it. So the person who's watching her, because dad is with mom because she's ill, says that the baby Jesus wants any gift because it is from you. And so all she has left, she sees weeds by the road, and she gathers them up and takes them in as her gift to the baby Jesus. And everyone looks at it like, why is she bringing weeds? But in fact, these become the poinsettias. And so he illustrates it this way. And then when they leave the church and go out into the town, all of these weeds have become the poinsettias, which do grow wild in Mexico. What I like in particular about this story is the author's note. And a lot of books like this will go through and tell you a little bit more the author wants you to know. And he tells us that it was not until 1830 that these flowers were brought to the United States. And it was because Dr. Joel Roberts Poinsett, who was a minister to, our nation's minister to Mexico from 1825 to 1830, saw the poinsettia plant, which it was not called that, growing, and brought them back to North Carolina where he lived, and they have become part of the United States holiday Christmas tradition. So this is the legend of the poinsettia. I think it might be a great story to put out, perhaps the day that you put your poinsettias out on display at your home, to explain that to young children. This book might be of interest up until maybe 10 or so. I know I read this to my third graders every year, and I would bring a poinsettia into the classroom and we would talk about them. And it was of great interest to those children who were between 8 and 9, and I'm pretty certain they would have enjoyed the story at least another year. So The Legend of the Poinsettia by Tommy DePaola. So those are my 3 books today for the holiday literature compilation we're putting together here, and I hope I can keep on target here. For sure by the 25th there will be 25 books. So I hope you enjoyed those books and found something you might enjoy checking out from your local library, or perhaps you already have it in your library. Bye-bye.